Happy Halloween. This is Everything is Spooky in the Dark, the podcast for WanderingCrystal.com. I'm your host, Crystal, and today I'll be telling you a special Halloween ghost story. So grab your snacks, turn off the lights, and get ready to be scared. I was tired and I needed a break from work, family, friends. I just needed a break from life. Just tuck away in some small cozy cabin in the woods or a cute little house on the hill far away from the world. I decided to look on homestay websites and Airbnb just to see if I could find the perfect location to just, spend a weekend just with my own thoughts. The perfect escape. But what I didn't know was how scary my escape would be. I kept seeing signs. Out of the corner of my eye, I'd see a shadow. I'd be walking down the stairs and I would feel just almost like someone was breathing in my ear. I would look behind me and I would see nothing. I was alone. I just, brushed it off my shoulders like, okay, well, it's just because I'm tired. I just need a break. But no, they were signs. They were warnings of what was to come. Someone was following me, but they weren't there. I could just feel them. Did they exist? I don't know. Was it just my imagination, just my extreme exhaustion? I don't know. So, I checked Airbnb and I found the perfect little place. It was a teeny tiny little house on a hill in New England. So I decided, okay, I'm booking this. So I picked the date. October 13th was the day I was supposed to arrive. It was a Friday. Good luck, I know, but I thought, why not? I'm not too overly superstitious, and I know that October 13th isn't necessarily an evil day, it's just a day of bad luck. So I went for it. I packed up my bags. I was just staying for a few days, so I didn't bring anything too crazy. I didn't overpack like I usually do. I hopped in my car, and I drove. Nothing crazy happened along the way, but I still had a weird feeling. And I brushed it off again. I just assumed, you just need a break. This is the whole reason you're going on this trip, because you need a break. I drove all day, and the sun was just setting as I arrived at the little house on the hill. This is when the rain started to fall. The atmosphere was already kind of misty and heavy. But it was such a cute little house. I was excited. As I walked up to the door, I noticed that the lock to the door was old. I had to push the small metal key in really hard, trying to break through the skin of rust that kept the house from the outside world. I clicked the lock and it opened. I slowly pushed the door, and the ambient sounds of squeaks filled the room. It was a little bit creepy, but I was there, so I tried to go in. But it's like the feeling was that my mind didn't want to go into the house, but my body just kept moving forwards. And I slowly stepped into the house, the dark foyer. Everything was dark, and all I could see was silhouettes of animals that had been taxidermied and hung to the wall. Had I made a mistake? This place was creepy. As I put down my bags and I flicked on the light, I closed the door and everything was quiet. Life became quiet when I stepped into the tiny house on the hill. The silence was a bit unsettling. Not even the sound of leaves blowing in the wind could be heard. Not a single bird song. Nothing. It was eerie, but I was intrigued by this little house. It was calling out to me, beckoning me, luring me in with its mystery. It was then that I heard whispers. Slowly, one by one, it sounded like a million different voices were breathing next to me. The hair on the back of my neck stood up, but I just couldn't walk away. I wanted to venture farther into the house and see what was in the darkness beyond. Being in the house was like I was trapped in a timeless world, a limbo where life outside of the house doesn't exist. Time stood still and the dust would never settle. The voices, the whispers, they stopped. I felt light, like everything was going to be okay. So I picked up my suitcase and brought it upstairs to the bedroom. It was late at this point, so I decided just to go to bed. I'll explore the house and everything around the house tomorrow. As I laid my head down on the pillow, I could feel like something was with me. It was like the house was trapped in time. The light from outside was not coming into the windows. So it was just darkness. There were no shadows. It was just black. I got up quickly and I turned on the light, looked around, and there was nothing there. So, as so many times before, I just assumed it was because I was tired and needed a break. I laid back down, closed my eyes, and I heard something say, "Crystal. Hello, Crystal. Crystal." I heard something say my name, Crystal. And that's when I slowly faded into sleep. I don't remember dreaming that night, but I didn't have a good sleep. When I woke up the next day, everything in the house was open. The closet door, all of the doors, all of the cabinets in the kitchen, all of the drawers in the bathroom, everything. Because I didn't really investigate the night before, I thought, okay, maybe it was like this last night. But it was still a little bit creepy and kind of made me feel uneasy. I closed everything and made myself breakfast and, decided just to watch some TV and enjoy the day before venturing out and walking through the woods that surrounded the house. As I was looking out the window in the kitchen, I noticed a tiny little graveyard, maybe a little family plot. I love graveyards, especially the historic ones, so I knew the moment I finished breakfast, I would walk out there and explore. And as I was eating breakfast, watching TV, I could hear tapping coming from upstairs. And then I could hear tapping coming from the hallway behind me. And I thought, okay, there's mice here. I did not think ghosts. I thought mice. So I looked around and I saw nothing. I didn't see any signs of mice. So I thought, okay, well, maybe it's the heating coming on. This was October. It's cold. So again, I just ignore it, disregard it, and decide to head out and investigate the forest that surrounds the house and the little graveyard. It was raining the night before, so it was really misty. All I could see was just figures, but not humans, just figures of trees, the outline of the tombstones. I tried reading the names on the tombstones, but it was kind of aged away, weathered away, and covered in moss. And I could see some of the dates. They were from the 1600s. There were ones that were from the 1800s. It was like a whole family plot, I assume. I couldn't see the names, but it was really cool. So I snapped up just tons of pictures. And I investigated the forest a bit more, but it was pretty misty and rainy, so I decided to head back in. And nothing weird happened for the rest of the day. I just sort of relaxed and enjoyed just being alone, or at least I thought I was alone. As the day went on, night fell, and I decided to go back to sleep. Or I decided to go to sleep. And I went upstairs, and everything was fine. There was nothing weird until I laid down in bed. And again, I could feel like something was there, but I couldn't see anything. I felt like somebody was staring at me. Something in the darkness. I looked out the window. The lights were not shining in again. Again, it was like I was stuck in time, and I wasn't alone. I didn't feel like I was alone. So, I was scared. I turned on the light. Nothing there. So I was like, okay. It's just my imagination. I'm just gonna go to sleep. So I closed my eyes, and I could feel something lightly touching. Just that spot in the back behind your ear. And I could feel like breath blowing just behind my hair, and I could feel my hair moving. And of course I thought, spider, because again, I wasn't thinking ghost. So of course I screamed, brushed out my hair, and went back to sleep. And then I heard it again as my eyes were closing and I was drifting up to sleep. I heard, "Get out, Crystal. Get out." And then I woke up and it was the next morning and everything was open. The doors, the cupboard doors, the drawers, everything. And I knew I closed them all yesterday, so I just had goosebumps all over my body. I was so scared. So this time my mind was like, ghosts. Because what the hell? So I was like, okay, this is my last day, my last night. I'm just gonna relax. If this place is haunted, is it haunted? Do I believe in ghosts? I don't know. My imagination is crazy. I thought for sure this has got to be ghosts. But I stayed because I had another night and I wanted to explore more. I wanted to look at the little graveyard and see if I could find any information about the family that lived there. Well, the family that is buried there. So the house, it's fully furnished. Somebody was renting it as an Airbnb. And I looked through the drawers and stuff, and I found some information about the house and the history of the house and the family that lived there. So the Airbnb does not advertise this place as haunted. None of the reviews say, oh, creepy, everything's open, noises, breathing, nothing. Seems like a perfectly normal house. It's just that, it's October, it's raining, everything is dying because autumn is here and it's misty and it's a little creepy. So did find that history of the house. It turns out that it was owned by one family and they lived there since the 17th century, and the last time somebody lived there was in the 1980s, and it just sat dormant for a while. So the people that own the Airbnb, they renovated it and they decided to rent it out as an Airbnb. Why not? They still have ties to the family, like it's still in the family name, but they don't live there anymore. So there was nothing really weird in the history that I read. There was nothing dark. The family seemed normal. They seemed happy. It was just a really old, cool house with a really cool, cute little graveyard in the backyard. So again, the day was fine. Nothing weird happened. I was leaving tomorrow. I was going back home, so I explored through the forest a bit more. I passed the graveyard. Maybe 300 feet from the graveyard, there was this tiny little tree that was kind of glowing in a bit, it's really hard to explain, but it was kind of glowing in the mist, and it kind of looked like if you touched it, it would send you to a portal. It was like a portal to another universe or something. So I didn't touch it. I'm not superstitious, but it was like a little weird because it was just a little weird because it was kind of glowing and you never know. So I took a little picture of it, and it was almost as though darkness came just abruptly. It was like I was lost in time. I don't know how long I was standing next to the tree taking photos, but by the time I blinked, it was dark. So, a little scared now because I didn't want to be attacked by any wild animals. I decided to head in for my last night in the house. This is when things changed. As soon as I stepped into the house, it was like the air was thick. Something was different, but I didn't know what. I heard crying, and it sounded like it was coming from an old man. So I went into the living room, and I heard, "Stop. Stop, please." And that's when I saw that there was a little old man, and he was laying over the lifeless body of a little girl. He wasn't screaming, but it looked like he was. He was saying, "Stop." It looked like he was, but all I could hear was whispers. "No. Stop. Stop. Don't leave me." And at this point I was terrified, and I blinked. When I opened my eyes, everything was gone. The house was lit up. I didn't see the figure of a man. I couldn't hear whispers. Couldn't hear anything. But I was terrified. And I thought, okay, it's too late to drive back home now. And I know what you're thinking. I should have just left at that moment, got in my car, stayed at a hotel somewhere, but I didn't. Terrified, I went up to the room, laid my head down, shut my eyes, and I fell asleep. There was nothing. There was no sound, no whispers, no weird breath on the back of my head. When morning came, I opened my eyes and everything was normal. This was the third day, and this time nothing was open. The doors were all shut. Nothing was untouched. But I didn't feel right. Something felt off, but I wanted to get the hell out of there. I packed up my bags as quickly as I could and rushed down the stairs. I opened the front door so I could go out to my car, and I felt on my arm somebody grab it and pull me back in. And I screamed and I fell to the floor. And it was the man that I had seen the night before, and he was just staring at me. He said, "I'm so lonely. Don't go." And I screamed and I ran up and I jumped into my car and I left. And as I was driving by, I looked in the rearview mirror and I could see him just standing by the door, looking really sad and lonely, but my God, was that terrifying. So I drove as fast as I could. I didn't want to turn back. I didn't care if I'd forgotten anything. I didn't want to spend any more time in that house. And the farther away that I got, the closer to home that I got, I felt better. Like a weight was lifting from my chest. Everything was going to be okay. And when I got home, a couple days later, I decided to look through my pictures because I wanted to look at the history of this house and figure out what the hell was going on. Why was there this ghost? So when I was looking at my photos, the man was in every single one of my photos. He was standing behind one of the gravestones, and I could finally read the name. And I looked up on the internet, of course. I looked up his name and the history of the house, and I found out that he died a horrific death in 1724 after he hanged himself because he accidentally killed his daughter. He was so sad and so lonely. And now he lives there forever, reliving what had happened. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening to Everything is Spooky in the Dark. I hope you enjoyed this Halloween special. I just want you to know that this story isn't real. I just made it up as I was sitting here. So hopefully it's good. Hopefully you liked it. Let me know what you thought. And enjoy spooky season. Just because it's almost over doesn't mean that it's over. Bye.